International Women's Day to all of you who are tuning in to this program. This production will deal with issues surrounding gender-based violence, sexual violence, and abuse, which may be triggering to survivors. Viewer discretion is advised. I am Macaela Cameron, the Program Communications and Advocacy Officer at the United Nations in Guyana. Welcome to Conversations with Her, a discussion on violence against women and girls with leading Guyanese female influencers. Conversations with Her is one of the many initiatives being undertaken by the European Union, United Nations Spotlight Initiative to eliminate violence against women and girls in observance of today's International Women's Day. I am graciously joined today by three prominent and influential women. They are Miss Poonam Singh, singer-songwriter, Miss Macaela Cameron, Public Relations, Marketing and Communications Consultant, and Miss Reneé Chester, makeup artist, entrepreneur. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
And we are pleased that you are joining us in this important conversation. You are lending your voices to this important discussion on violence against women and girls in Guyana. For the benefit of our viewing and listening audience, the Spotlight Initiative, funded by the European Union and implemented by the United Nations in partnership with the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, is a national program that focuses on the issue of family violence in Guyana. As the program unfolds, we are engaging with stakeholders in all sectors of society. In today's conversation, our guests are a part of a new stakeholder grouping that we are engaging with, our influencers. And this conversation is the official launch of an ongoing advocacy campaign titled With Her Talks, which will feature interactive discussions on social media platforms throughout the year. The intention is to use social media to stimulate debate and build knowledge on gender-based violence among Guyanese. Today's discussion will focus on the topic citizen security and social inclusion for women and girls in Guyana. Historically, women are disproportionately affected by gender-based violence. However, we do acknowledge that men are also affected by gender-based violence. Today's discussion, however, focuses on women as we observe International Women's Day. And ladies, we especially want to hear your views on how you as influencers and other people in society of influence can add to this ongoing discussion, because we know that gender-based violence in Guyana is an ongoing and it's a very serious national social issue that must be addressed. As I mentioned, none of our guests are strangers to the public. But for the benefit of those who may not know you, I'd like to give our audience a brief background on your careers in order to highlight the true scope of your achievements. So I will start with Miss Poonam Singh, singer-songwriter. In addition to her title as singer-songwriter, Miss Singh is a brand ambassador. She represented Guyana at the Miss Global International Pageant in 2016 and placed first runner-up among 70 other countries. Ms. Singh holds a diploma in communication studies. She's currently working on her debut international extended play, known simply as EP in the music world. And Ms. Macaela Cameron, media personality, entrepreneur. She is a public relations, marketing and communications consultant with local and international experience in the oil and gas, information technology and entertainment sectors. You would have seen her several times over on television, radio, and in several print productions. Ms. Cameron recently moderated an HSC panel at the International Energy Conference and Expo, and also hosted the phenomenal Women of 2021 series for the Newsroom. Additionally, she is the co-founder of Ogle and Stone, a public relations, communications, and business sustainability firm. And she's also the co-host of the Entertainment Report on 94.1. We're also joined by Miss Reneé Chester, makeup artist, entrepreneur. Ms. Chester has over 12 years of experience in the beauty industry. She considers herself a professional with a highly driven passion for beauty and excellence. She has made appearances on countless events over the years, promoting her artistry to fellow Guyanese and representing entrepreneurs as a woman in business. In 2018, she was featured as part of the Guyanese Youth in Review, and in January 2019, she was awarded the Caribbean Style and Culture Award for Outstanding Makeup Artist in the Caribbean. In April 2019, she was also awarded the 40 Under 40 Entrepreneurial Award for Success by Brand Youth Global. Wow.
Beautiful.
Distinguished and very influential ladies. I'm humbled to be in your presence.
We're so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's get into the conversation. Women and girls are using the internet with greater frequency, especially during the pandemic. We're all online. But we know that this is a platform where women and girls are also facing more violence than men. So how do we ensure that women and girls are aware of their right to safety and security online? Let's open it up.
You know, growing up, coming from the place that I've came from and the background that I'm from and the place that I'm at right now, I've always been experiencing abuse online. But
which is so unfortunate and quite shocking, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's something that's currently still happening. I feel like people, they just tend to create an environment, a hostile environment, where they degrade people and degrade women, and they intimidate women, and they just try to silence us. And I know there's like 100% of other women out there who go through the same thing that I go through every day. But what I also do know that there's a lot of resources and website online and offline and locally that we can use to stay safe and be secured.
Definitely.
So, you know, I just want to touch on my experience working on radio. Yes. And I go through, you know, there's a live and there's Facebook comments. And sometimes people, the comments are disparaging. They tend to be a bit offensive, and I know it's somebody behind the keyboard, but it does hurt. Yes. You know, reading it, and you go home and you think about it and you try to not let it simmer too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, the internet is an amazing tool. You know, we are connected to each other in a way that we've never been connected before. But like Poonam said, I think that we need to just be more aware of the resources we have, the fact that we can, you know, let people know that, yes, I am being harassed, I am being bullied, and not be afraid to speak out, especially as young girls and especially as women. And, you know, my experience is obviously a unique one, but I think that people, like Poonam mentioned, we all have experienced some sort of bullying, some sort of online harassment. We just have to know that there are resources available to help us in case, you know, we do experience that sort of unwarranted behavior.
And we do want to talk about the list of resources that are available, and what, you know, we want to enlighten our audience. What exactly are these lists? What comprises in these lists? What is it that they need to know? You know, how to educate themselves on how to stay safe online.
Definitely. I think sometimes, as Macaela mentioned, it's a person behind the keyboard, but sometimes if we stop to think about it, that person also is going through something.
Yes.
And sometimes that's their outlet, but at the same time they're not realizing that they're causing hurt to someone else.
For sure.
But we'll definitely come back and share some of the resources that people can turn to instead of turning on other people. Reneé?
And my concern on every point made is for those who don't have the strongest mindset. I haven't had much experience with online bullying and gender-based violence while online, because I've always been a woman with a strong mind. Like, my tolerance for persons coming at me a certain way online, I keep it a certain level. I know how to block, I know how to delete, and I know how to report.
It's so funny she said that, because that's one of the pointers. That's actually one of the pointers.
I'm also still affected and concerned for those who don't have a mindset like this, because I don't want to take all the glory. Oh, I'm well-powered, I'm empowered, I'm strong, I know what to do. What about those who don't? So my concern always pedals back to how I can encourage women online, especially the younger girls who haven't tapped into that self of empowerment as yet, but how to deal with this, how to use measures, mindsets on how to deal with this. I cannot tell you don't feel bad about something. I cannot tell you, oh, that's just behind the keyboard, right? Because you will hear me, you will say, yeah, that's true, but I cannot feel the emotions for you. So I want to use my voice, and I want to use my platform, and I want to use interactions and communications such as this to propel that message. How can we help those who are struggling with helping themselves? Because depends on what is being thrown at you online, it's not always easy to come to a friend or a family member. I understand that. I get that completely. I had to work through that myself as well. But I knew the process working through it myself. I knew how intense it was. And I would like to make it a little easier for those who are now facing this experience.
That's a very good point. And just to add to what Reneé said, I think that also too, we as a society, especially as women, we need to listen to other women. We need to believe other women. We need to believe their stories. And we need to empower these women when they are relaying to us what it is that they've experienced and what it is that they've gone through. And then we need to figure out ways in turn how we can help, how we can make it easier for them to not have this fear of admitting that these certain behaviors have occurred online. Just to add to what Reneé said.
Definitely, and it's interesting because I browse, here and there on Instagram, and I see some celebrities come to the defense of each other. So some of you shared experiences of, disparaging remarks and comments. How should we as a society, whether it's happening to women and girls, we know it happens to boys and men, how should we come to the defense of each other online?
I think one of the first things that we could do is support each other, even in the comments. I know there's a stance that a lot of people take whereby I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to chime in. No, we need to chime in. We need to let this person or this group know that what you're doing, we're not about to tolerate this. We're not going to give you that satisfaction to degrade someone, to verbally abuse someone. We have to let them know we're not tolerating it. There are also laws in place, and we need to, there are also laws in place, and we also need to bring those laws to the forefront, because everyone gets a little scared when we start talking about the law and your rights and what the repercussions will be. So we need to approach these situations not only from, oh, I know her, I'm going to represent her, but we need to get the law behind it as well.
Definitely, and I think for some people, they're really just ignorant because they don't realize that what they're doing is actually contributing to violence against women and girls online. So I think, as in any other social issue, there's a lot of need for education, because some, especially young people, some of them may not know. It's like, oh, I don't like this about you, I'm just going to say it in the comments. No, it's not okay, because you don't know what that person is going through. You don't know what reaction that's triggering in that person.
And the media perpetuates stereotypes as well. And we grew up seeing certain things, and we grew up seeing certain behaviors on television, on the internet, and we expect those behaviors to represent real life, and in turn they do not.
But what is learned can be unlearned, though,
which is a valid point.
With proper education, a proper social gathering, talk shows like this where you can educate your audience, definitely we can move forward from this. And she was talking about blocking people. That's actually one of the pointers in the resources that are available locally. Block whoever you don't know online. That's one of the things you need to do to stay secure digitally. If you see a friend request or any kind of request from any other social media, just block the person, or you're not obligated to respond to that person.
No, you're not.
Or you're not obligated to any kind of interaction online that may be detrimental to your mental health or to you in any certain ways. So that's one of the pointers that definitely we need to take into consideration and try to do as much as we can.
Don't be afraid to block and delete.
Yes.
I think
And
that's
report.
And report
Yes,
as well. Yes,
definitely.
exactly.
Yes, I
And
think
another way women could stay secure online is don't share too much. Like there's certain times we would want to go out and we would post a picture, and then there's the geotag.
Yes.
When you share too much online, you don't know what kind of people are out there, what agenda they have. You can have stalkers, you can have people who are interested in you in a very negative way, and you don't want them turning up at your doorstep, because just by a simple location can go really far,
so
and they can know
valid.
exactly where you are. So if you want to avoid things like that, if you really want to stay secure, you really have to be careful on what you do, what you post about your lifestyle, just to stay safe.
What you said, Poonam, is quite accurate, and I have a friend that works at an international company, and one of the guidelines that this company recommends is that employees do not share their current location. So they're out, let's say they're out at a bar or at a restaurant, don't share that you're currently there. Wait until after the fact. So that if someone is interested in stalking you or pursuing you, that they don't show up to said location.
Right.
And just to add to that too, I just want to warn the young women and women watching, videos and pictures. We need to be very careful about what we share and who we share those images
Because
and videos
those things
with.
could come back to embarrass you, potentially
Blackmail.
embarrass you, haunt you.
Yeah, for
and
the rest of your life. And that's what's scary about the internet, is that it never goes away.
No.
So you have to be very wary about what you're sharing. And I mean, I think we understand where I'm getting at. The explicit content is what I'm referring to.
And we also need to activate the knowledge of the repercussions of the persons sharing these
Definitely.
videos and photos.
Yes.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
You're not messing with the law.
You're not messing with the law.
I mean,
we need
the
to
law-
instill that fear in
Yes.
them, and that will help them to refrain from contributing to violence in this
Definitely,
manner.
laws are in place for a reason. It's not, because you may commit a crime. This is a crime.
This is a crime.
It shouldn't just be,
Yes.
you're a pickpocket, you're a robber,
Yes.
you're a thief, and that's the only time the law applies to you. It's everything. And interesting about photos as well, because sometimes I notice people post photos and you could get a layout of their homes even.
Yes.
So
I've done that.
so
I'm so guilty of that. So
so
I
even
know, which is terrible.
being
Yes.
that
Yes.
mindful
Yeah.
about we're securing ourselves online,
Yes.
but we could also secure our physical space while
Yes.
we're online.
Be
through
aware
the
of
the
our-
assets in your
Yes.
home.
Yes,
too.
So
yes.
true.
Yeah.
Be aware of our surroundings. I think we need to be a little more cognizant of that, because like I said, I think we all admitted it that
Yes.
I'm definitely guilty
I'm guilty as well.
of doing that.
Certainly.
I know there's a lot of little kids and teenagers probably listening to this program today, and I do want to say that if you are talking to someone online, please don't meet your acquaintance in person
No,
in a setting
definitely
where
not.
it's not public, and don't go out and meet this person and you didn't tell your mom or your dad or any family member, or even your cousin or best friend.
And even this
where
applies to
you're
an
going.
older person too. Tell a friend, tell a cousin, tell
Yes.
your mom, tell your parents that you're meeting this person and we're going to this
Yeah.
location.
Because you never know what would happen in person if that person turns out to be somebody totally different online. And that's something you need to be aware of.
Definitely. And even if you're meeting them online, say, oh, that's a nice couch. Turn it, let me see. And they're looking to see, well, I know where she lives. How can I get through that window? Does it have bars on it? This
wow.
is
I never thought
No,
so
I
hard
think
about
that's-
it,
I
but
think
yeah,
that's
you're
the
That's how
absolutely right.
intense I
that
think
you-
about things
yeah,
before
you
I
have to.
post.
I'm gonna go check
I
right
think
all of
about
Renee's pictures
that.
now.
Yes,
I'd
I
be
know.
like,
Yeah,
Ready to
it's really online safety which
Yeah.
filters into our physical, space,
Absolutely.
the safety of our spaces. So
Yeah.
definitely that's an ongoing conversation that we must have. And yes, as I mentioned, there will be follow-up interactive discussions. So we will delve some more into some of these very specific topics. But now I'd like us to move on to another element of gender-based violence, which I think a lot of people could relate to. And this is the fact that many women and families are affected economically as a result of gender-based violence. In Guyana, a study was conducted in 2019. It's called the Guyana Women's Health and Family Life Experiences Survey. And that survey revealed that economic impacts may contribute to continuing violence, as well as creating a barrier to help seeking or, making women feel like they can't leave, women and men, making them feel as though they can't leave violent relationships. So we know that economically empowered women are more likely to disclose
Yes.
gender-based violence. But what happens to those persons, women, girls, men and boys, who do not have that economic empowerment?
You know, I feel when you have, this is just my opinion too, like when you have money and you have status and you're financially stable and you're in a good place, but you've experienced bad things in your past, you're more tend to be opened and I guess comfortable, because that's not everything that defines you. That's not the entirety of you. That's not who you are. Yes, you've had bad experiences. Yes, you were a victim, but at the end of the day, you've moved on from it. You've made a name for yourself.
Yes.
You're something, and you feel a little empowered.
Yes.
So you can speak about your past. But
There's not as
on the
much
other
of a
hand,
stigma.
right? But on the other hand, the women who are still in those controlling situations, the women who are still experiencing those violence situations, they tend to be ashamed to come out and speak about it, because that's all that they have. That's all that they're going through.
Norms and
and you never know, maybe that person that they're going through it with, it's somebody that they're related to, somebody that it's somebody that they're close to, somebody that's supporting them financially. So it tends to make them chime in, like not want to like talk about it, and they close up. So that's how I feel about that situation. The more you kind of make a name for yourself, because when I was younger, I went through some horrible experiences, before I made a name for myself, and I would never talk to anyone about it, just because I feel like they wouldn't believe me. Like, who are you? What you say doesn't matter.
That's terrible that you felt that way.
And women shouldn't feel that way. It doesn't matter your wealth or if you're poor or rich. That doesn't matter. It matters like who you truly are, and you should be able to speak out in situations like that.
I agree completely. I just want to read this quote.
Sure.
This lady, her name is Jackie True. She's a professor of politics and international relations. So she said, and it's kind of long, so excuse me. So strategies for empowering women economically to give women greater autonomy in securing livelihoods, including through self-employment, collective income generating arrangements within households and communities, formal employment and entrepreneurial market activity, have shown some of the best evaluated outcomes in terms of reducing participating women's future experience of violence. So this just rings so true to me. The fact that, if you are in a better place economically, like Poonam just mentioned, you're more wary of maybe not what's wrong or what's right, but you're more wary of the fact that, yes, I can disclose this information and it will be accepted. And most of all, people will believe me. And I think that's one of the cases that we as women need to discuss more. Why are people not believing other people's stories, other women's stories when they come out? And it's a very strange thing that I've encountered several times throughout my life.
I feel like the women who are not being able to come out and speak out, women that are economically stable, they should be able to help them to speak out or seek medical help, professional help, and direct them towards a future that is going to be bright for them as well, and not make them feel like they're going to always be stuck in the dark. Sometimes we need a helping hand. It doesn't matter who that person is, but you never know how much of a help you can be to that person at the end of the day.
Definitely. And I think the women who are not feeling as strong as they should, because oftentimes in these types of situations, they do not have a certain level of education.
Yes.
They may not have a certain skill set. They may have been convinced to not further their studies, not venture into a business or something they wanted
but
to
I
do.
think one of the main thing, and Reneé mentioned this, your mindset. Some of them don't have that, and that's your mind could play a really important part in your life. And if you don't have that mindset to really go forward and to come out of that situation, there's nothing that nobody could tell you. We can enable you, we can project you towards a direction, but if you personally don't want to make that choice, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for everyone around you.
I just want to inject like an additional perspective to what everyone would have mentioned so far. I wrote it down, but I feel like I wrote it so well. I just want to, is that okay? I feel like I just want to plug it in from what I wrote.
Of course, read it for us.
And I mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again because of how important I feel it is. But part of my answer is lacking self-strength is usually the first lapse. It's the first lapse in economic empowerment in women and girls. And we have to work fast on this. And a few measures that can inject here is that there should be emphasis on the commonly known areas. Commonly known areas I want to specify as social, educational, economic, political, and even psychological. Right?
Well said.
So we need to up the conversation and delve deeper into these
Absolutely.
issues from these angles as well.
And I think that comes from, you know, not just a macro level, it comes from a micro level. We need to examine all aspects of society, whether big or small. Where are we going wrong? Why do these women feel as though they're not able to disclose what's going on within their household, what's going on within their lives, and why they're not able to, you know, flourish as they should be. So I think that what you just said, Reneé, is that was extremely well said, and I'm glad that you read that for us.
Thank
And
you.
definitely, and that's why the Spotlight Initiative in Guyana is focusing on family violence. It's, you know, because gender-based violence, it's such a broad-based
Yes.
thing. And you were mentioning, you know, the empowerment and how women feel. What about those women who have children?
Right.
They may want to, but how can you, how they're
Leave that
thinking,
situation.
how can I leave knowing that
Yes.
at this point in my life, I don't know where the next doll is coming from,
Yes.
And that-
and
I
my
would like to
children have
interject
to
on
be
that
fed.
one too.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a hard
Yes.
decision
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ever make.
But I feel, and this is a personal feeling, that there isn't enough programs
Yes.
to help women escape and then reintegrate into society. Their abusers are still out there, still running around, still home with the children, still have false apologies and stuff. But I just need more programs to be out there to help women from a psychological perspective. The money is important, the shelter is important, but the mind is superpower now, because I need to understand that I cannot, under no circumstance, go back into this situation. I love my children. I spent a lot of money on this home, yes, but if I don't fix myself, I will just delve back into this violent
cycle.
home, this whole cycle of things.
Yeah.
So we need family members and we need organizations to give that psychological support. And when these women try to reintegrate into society, that help and that support, that motivation is there.
Well said, Reneé. Well
Definitely,
said.
definitely.
And you know, I just want to also interject. You know, some of the direct costs, and I did some research on this, and I'm going to reference my notes as well
we need
too.
to talk about the men too.
Yes. So some of the direct costs, you know, of what happens to women without economic security, excuse me, medical expenses, legal services, excuse me, costs of relocating, potentially being excluded from village or family networks, like you said, impacts on child nutrition, health, and access to education. And you know, as a mom, my child is my life now, and I think about her when I make any sort of decision. So I can imagine, or I can't even begin to imagine,
Right, people who are
being
in that
in this
situation,
place.
yeah.
Yes.
What would I do? And that's just me being honest with you, because like I said, this is now, I have the little love of my life, and she comes first in every decision that I make. Even doing this program, I thought of Callie. And you know, I feel such sorrow and sadness for women who are in these situations, and I hope that they get the help, like you said, Reneé, the psychological help too, that they deserve and that they of course need.
Definitely. And just to let the public know, under the Spotlight Initiative, these services are available.
That's
and
great.
yes, we know that sometimes not everyone has access to the resources. Some people may not have internet to be online.
That's why
But you
we
know,
have
we
to
have
put
the
it out
radio, we have the television.
Yes.
Sometimes we need to get back to that traditional media.
Yeah, of
But
course.
resources are there, because as part of the Spotlight Initiative, we have been supporting the national response to strengthen what we call the referral pathways. So someone who wants to flee, or they have reached the stage where enough is enough, there is a pathway. So from the minute they go to make that report, they're supported throughout. If it's a
That's
case that
wonderful.
medical intervention is needed, there are safe spaces. Of course we can disclose where those are,
course,
but
of
there
course.
are a lot of NGOs that have safe spaces that are available. Yes, it may mean leaving the comfort of the well-crafted home that you have created for your family, but you're safe. There
But
are
sometimes you have to
opportunities.
put you first.
Yes.
Exactly,
So
and
right.
in some of the safe spaces, there are support services to even help you craft a resume so
Oh,
that you could
lovely.
then search for jobs online, so that you could have this.
Reintegration into
into
society.
Exactly.
Yes.
So these services are available, and so that's
Yeah.
why we're hoping that conversations such as these would
Yes.
really
Bring
raise that
awareness.
awareness,
Yes.
so that people could be aware, and if they're not in the situation but they know
Know
of a
someone,
situation,
yes.
they could provide the support by simply sharing that information.
And one of the first places that this could start being shared is in the schools.
Yes.
We gotta start early. Some people might feel this is too much information for young minds. Something like this could never be too much information for young minds. It needs to be in programs,
It's a
in schools,
conversation that we
somewhere.
have to have.
Somewhere,
Yes.
guidance, counsel, after school programs, something. But we need to get it even in the church. I know some people would say, oh, we're a church. We don't want to talk about this.
violence.
We don't want to take it from this angle. Even in politics, we need to inject this information anywhere necessary.
Definitely.
Anywhere.
Definitely.
Radio, television, school, Sunday school, church. We need to
Yes.
keep
The
raising the
conversations,
conversation,
yes, of
keep it
course.
going.
Definitely.
And you know, I always think when I'm on a forum such as this one, or even if I'm on radio, I always think that if I'm having a very intense conversation like this, there might be one person that's listening, and that one person might, listen and say, okay, I can make that change, or
And be
I-
courageous enough to just
Right, exactly.
make
So
that
if,
change
if
and
this
different.
program influences just one woman
Yes.
to say no and enough is enough, then I
Yes.
feel as though that we've done what we were asked to come here to do today. And just one little change can make can create a
Big
huge
difference.
tidal wave of
Yes.
change. And I hope that happens just based upon this conversation today with these women.
Okay, just picking up on the point that Reneé mentioned, as part of what we call the program formulation, where we had the discussions with various persons, various sectors on what we wanted the Spotlight Initiative to achieve. I must let the public know that several stakeholders, including politicians, some faith-based organizations, a lot of the women's organizations, we are all on the same page. Everyone has that desire to address gender-based violence. No one wants to know that anyone is going through this, whether woman, girl, man, or boy. And some organizations, while some organizations help persons who may not be comfortable going to the medical professional. So some of the faith-based organizations that are on board are equipped to provide support services where needed, and they are also cognizant of the fact that sometimes they could only do so much,
Of course.
but they also need to then refer persons to
Understood.
other services that are available. So persons who are in need of any type of support, feel free to reach out to us. Simply message on the United Nations Guyana Facebook page, and we can direct you to the relevant services that you would be in need of. So we are nearing the end of our conversation. I can't believe it already. But let's have a discussion on one more item. What role do you think influencers such as yourself have in this national conversation, gender-based violence, one of the many societal ills that we're dealing with? How can influencers help?
I can take a go
Yes,
first in that.
please.
As a woman in business and as a business owner, I'm now an employer as well. And I think workplace policies is a great start. If I can create an inviting space of safety based on my line of work, more than usual, my staff would be females, which puts me at an advantage now to take advantage of sharing knowledge, offering protection,
Right.
offering support to women who come into my space. Obviously, they come from their own background of friends, family members, and they can share what they learn from me. But to just have women come into my space just to support my business so I gain, I can also help them gain my knowledge, my expertise, my experience, the exposure that I have, share my communication, my influencer associates, and encourage them to not accept certain things. Make my workplace as well a safe space,
Love that.
right?
Love that.
Definitely. What are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Poonam.
Well, one thing that I really want to put emphasis on is being genuine. I feel like women, all of us, we should be genuine with each other. Sometimes someone would confide in us, and there's some women, they would have their little girls group, and they would go back and they would tell their girls everything that person confided in them, and trusted them and expected it to be confidential. Now that's something I've been witnessing and I've experienced, and that's something that we need to stop doing. That's something that I really want that we should really take into consideration when someone open up to us. We should be able to direct them and let them know that there's professional help out there, and to seek that professional help instead of going back and telling someone else that story. And the last thing I really want to talk about as well is that we should always bring awareness, continue to bring awareness to protect our women and our girls, both online and offline, and ensure that they
Definitely.
always feel secure.
Definitely.
Safe, seriously.
And so I have a list, but I won't go through my entire list because I actually have 10 things, but there's just a couple of things that I want to highlight.
I feel as if they would make a change and they serve a purpose,
Okay.
you go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'll take Poonam's lead. All right, so number one, speak up. That's for sure. When you're experiencing gender-based violence, speak up.
Yes.
Let people know your truth. Number two, I want to encourage the private sector to support women equality in the workplace. I know that Reneé said that because of her line of business, she employs mainly women, but the private sector, I think we need to do better. Number three, talk to women and girls, and most importantly, we need to listen. We need to listen to their truth. We need to listen to their stories, and we need to believe them. Number four, encourage young girls and women to get educated, including STEM and tertiary education. Education is key.
Okay, yes.
We need to, like you said, teach these things in the schools when our kids are younger, but we also need to encourage young women, young girls, boys, and young men as well to get that education, to get, to that level where they want to be. Number five, vote women into positions of power. Unfortunately, and I have a statistic here, which is quite shocking to me, that only 21% of government ministers are women. No, in the world.
In the world, okay.
21%. It's a very small percentage. Number six, raise aspirations of girls. Encourage them to know that they can and that they will. Number seven, encourage women to get involved in non-traditional roles, which include engineering, aviation, law enforcement, etc. Empower mothers to work, of course, if they choose. Number nine, know your rights. You know what's right, you know what's wrong. If you don't know, contact the authorities, like Reneé mentioned several times, and ask them, is this behavior acceptable? Is this behavior, has it violated the law? And then finally, support the cause. Donate to groups, including money, clothing, supplies, etc. I know that Help and Shelter is a great place. They've provided lots of support for women across Guyana. So support the cause, and like I said, and I want to reiterate this, believe women when they speak. Believe that this is their truth. Let us believe them.
So we have had quite an interesting discussion. We know that this needs to continue. Unfortunately, we do not have all of that time.
Yes.
But we know that if we can wrap up our conversation, when we speak about the right to safety and security online, Guyana has the Cybercrime Act, and persons may not be aware that it actually helps to protect victims of gender-based violence, and it could also help to deter perpetrators, because I remember in the initial conversation, the point was raised that some persons just do these things, and because there is no consequence, it's okay, it's accepted to be, oh, I did it and moving on, I can do it again. But we do have laws in place that persons may need to turn to more, and some persons need that harsh reality that, listen, if I do X, Y is going to happen. And also we mentioned that there is need for more digital literacy, because sometimes people innocently may not know that what they're doing is wrong. Some do, but there may be others, especially younger persons sometimes, who might not realize. So there is that need for more education for everyone, boys and girls, women, women and men, so that they're aware of what they should and shouldn't do when they're online. And then when we spoke about women being in situations where they may not be economically empowered, we just want to encourage those persons to pursue the dreams that you may have put on hold. Even if there was not a dream, reach out to the support services that are available to help bring to fruition something that would help to bring you to that place where you feel, strong enough. And, baby steps would be needed. We won't all become millionaires overnight.
It's never too late to start dreaming.
Exactly. Well said. Never too late to start dreaming. And those support services are there. And as influencers, I've heard this throughout your responses. There is a great role for you, similar to several other partners that we work with, because we need the right messages about GBV to get out there. We know all of the situations, we know all of the negatives. We need the positivity. We need more of the empowerment. We need more of the support. We need more of the messages of persons being allies, so that, that support is needed. And persons who are listening, who are watching, know that, like Poonam, Macaela, Reneé, there's so many other persons and organizations that are out there willing to render assistance where needed. So I'll ask each of you to give one final thought as we observe International Women's Day.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you so much for having me here today. I feel very, very honored. And to our girls and our women out there, I want you to know that you are loved and you're special and you're stronger than you think. And I want to wish you a very happy International Women's Day and all of the happiness in the entire world.
I'd like to thank you, Colette, for being an excellent moderator. I think today's conversation was truly insightful. And to my fellow panelists, I learned a lot from both of you. It was a very insightful conversation. And to those of you watching, happy International Women's Day. I think, the future is woman. And we just need to seize the opportunity, carpe diem, and take advantage of our opportunities. And most importantly, again, never be afraid of your truth. And please, if there's something going on in your household, something going on in your life, be sure to report it to the proper authorities. And don't be afraid. Get out of that situation. There is, like I said, there's always time to dream. It's never too late to start dreaming. So happy International Women's Day to everyone watching today.
Yes. I too am very honored to be here and be in the presence of all these beautiful women. And my message is definitely to say that there's safe space out there. I just need women to tune into these organizations. Align yourself strategically to receive help. We all deserve a fabulous lifestyle.
Thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us on this special program, Conversations with Her, the first in a series of interactive discussions around gender-based violence as part of the European Union, United Nations Spotlight Initiative to eliminate violence against women and girls in Guyana. Be sure to follow the European Union, United Nations, and the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates on the Spotlight Initiative, and to tune into future With Her talks, where we will have even more in-depth conversations with more influencers, with more stakeholders, and many other persons in society. On behalf of the technical team, I am Colette Singh. Thank you for joining us, and once again, Happy International Women's Day.